In this one, I'm going to be putting it in a different case, and we're going to be going through a little bit of a demo of the CFFA card and some serial operations. So, first thing I wanted to do here was I wanted to make sure that the jumpers that I had actually fit the pin headers that I had. And so I discovered with just a little bit of brute force, they do go on. So the next thing to do is I need to cut a couple of them off, and then we'll mount them to the board where the ROM jumper will go. So as you can see, the CFFA card, there's no way you'd use that other case I showed you in part 1. So, also the CFFA card fits very tightly into the socket, so putting it in, removing it, that's not a good plan. Something's going to get broken. So, it's kind of funny, I made a bridge connection when I was soldering, and then all I did was heat it back up, and man, it just went away. You gotta love that. So we'll double check that we don't have any shorts. Looks good. Clean it up with a little bit of IPA and the Yon Beta brush. Finish off with a little Q-tip action. Yeah, so here's the case I'm going to use. I've had this in my shed for quite some time. So I went ahead and did a bunch of this work off camera, regrettably. But I mounted a switch, a couple of momentary switches. I printed another nameplate, but this time in white PLA, and I cut the holes in the back for the connections, and kind of looks like I had a 5-year-old do it, but it'll work out. So this thing has screws that hold it together, but at this point I've already removed the screws. So I left plenty of it for y'all to watch me build here. So what we're going to need to do now is figure out our wiring for the switches. There we go. Let there be light. That's your CFFA card there. Yeah, I only put 2 standoffs in the front because the rest of it lined up with the plastic framing there. So there's no worry about it shorting against anything. But I would like to add a ground wire that goes from one of the connections on where it screws down, and put that to the rear panel, because I'm getting some weird things happening whenever I connect the keyboard, and I think it's because it got a floating ground. You're adding so many square inches of ground plane and then disconnecting it, and I think it's causing us issues. So we'll have to add another set of jumpers for the clear or the reset switch. I already put one on by accident, so that was a happy accident. When Bob Ross would approve. So how I plan to remember this is if you look at the word replica, R comes first and then C comes after it, so that'll be reset and clear. So I was checking this here to see if the switch actually was connected on both poles. It's a dual post, dual throwout switch, and it is actually switching the 3.3 and the 5 volt. I was hoping I could use one side of the switch for power and the other one for the ROM, and that way you could make it where it works for power on either pole, and then just the ROM would only connect on one of them. That would force you to turn it off before you change the ROM, and it would have been a cool setup, but it's just not going to work out. So, we're cutting more header pins. I was hoping I could use these header pins when I was cutting them, thinking I could use those for the power switch, but the spacing, the pitch, if you will, is incorrect for the holes, which I will discover here momentarily. So my solution was to simply solder some connectors, DuPont connectors right here that I'm going to snip off these jumpers, and I'm just going to solder the DuPont connectors to the board, and that way I can easily plug and unplug all the connections so that I can remove the board without having to desolder anything. Definitely a solution. I don't know if it's the solution, but it's what we chose, and that's what we're running with. Okay, so that's all soldered in. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and put the pin headers by the clear button. I had posted in the local, the DFW Retro Computing group on Facebook. I posted my build as I was building it, and Mr. Briel himself commented that, hey, there's holes on the board where you can install pin headers for reset and clear switch if you wanted to remote it. So thank you, Mr. Briel. And here I'm just getting the correct length for the wires. Yeah, get the board out of there. So we'll cut all the wires to the right length. So you got the two reds we're going to use for the 5 volt, and the two yellows we'll use for the 3.3. So my method that I use is I tin the wires, then I tin the terminals on the switch, and then I tin the soldering iron, and it's pretty easy to stick it together once you've got all those three things in place. So we're tinning the terminals. Apply a little bit of heat, melt the solder, and then get away from it and let it harden up. And the wire is on there. It seems like such a simple thing, but I struggle with this. Wires. I can solder through-hole pins all day long and make them pretty, but it's wires I struggle with for some reason. Just need more practice, I guess. So, there we go. trial fit and see if everything's going to work out okay. So we can go ahead and get our length for our reset and clear buttons now for the wires for those. Looks like it's gonna work. Snip, snip. Of course, the uncoordinated oaf has a little trouble with snip, snip, I guess. Alright, here we go. Repeat the same process. Strip the wires, tin the wires, stick the wires. You know, I have a helping hands thing, but it's so big, it's so bulky, you haul it out, and it's in the way, and it's like, let's just use the lid for the tip cleaner. Much easier. Torsion work, we'll get in there and get these terminals tinned. Stick it all together. Awesome. So, on those DuPont wires, you got a little metal strip off to the side of each connector, and I didn't want there to be any chance they could short out. So I'm putting a little bit of heat shrink tubing to cover up all those metal terminals there. If you look by my thumbnail there, you can see what I'm talking about. Trash out of the way. Go ahead and run the screws in. Just have to connect light colored wires together. Alright, let's power it up. Hey, switch works. How about that? So unfortunately I had to do voiceover because of noise my wife was making in the background. However, you could hear it connecting and disconnecting from the computer. So we're going to go ahead and hook up the serial port using Tera Term. I determined that COM7 was the one for the Replica 1 there. Okay. So we just got to make a few settings. We're going to use 80 by 25. No, 24. 80 by 24. On receive, we'll use carriage return and line feed. On transmit, let's just leave that alone with carriage return. We're good. Then we go to setup again, serial port. Our settings. We got COM7, 9600 baud, 8-bit, no parity, just 1-bit stop bit. We're going to use a 50 microsecond per character and 200 per line delay. turn the computer on, and hey, look at that. We got the little slash. But it's very little, so let's make it a little bigger. We'll adjust the font size. I decided at this point to go ahead and put 30. After more experience with the machine, I discovered 25 works out better. The 30 is definitely more visual than the smaller fonts. So if you watch my thumb at the bottom, press reset, and things happen. Alright. Can't really test the clear with the serial because it really doesn't do anything. I'll hook up a monitor here in a little bit, or at least the screen capture, and we'll demonstrate that the clear button works. So I typed in 9003 run. I didn't get the R because I didn't have the caps locked down, so we'll try this again. 9003 caps lock R. Come on, you can do it, Vern. There it is. So what that does is it loads the CFFA. So the C will give you a catalog. It shows you your available directories. Then you P for prefix will select which folder you want. So started to go into demos, and I went in there okay, but inside the demos, you see I got the Apple 30th demo in there, but it's not going to work out too well with the serial panel. So P again, and leave it blank, it'll go back to the root directory. And we're back to where we were, so we can press current turn or enter. We got a couple of games on the CFFA card. We got Lunar and Star Trek. So Star Trek is basic, Lunar is machine language. So I decided to load Lunar. What I'm about to realize here in a little bit is that if you start at 9,000 and you quit, it drops you back into WASMOD. But I decided to start with 9003, and that is going to drop me into Basic. And well, from Basic, you can't really run WASMOD commands in Basic. It just made a line 300 with an R, which doesn't do much. So I'll figure it out here in a second. So I just figured out that I'm dropping into Basic. So reset again, and we'll do it right this time. Type in the address with R to run it, and there is Lunar Lander, but because the font size is not right, we're having some issues displaying the text, so in the right format. Let's try 5. I did something. Turn it off. Here, let me move the computer screen capture over here. Hey, now you can see the light come on at least, huh? So E000R, now that's going to drop us into, because we have the jumper in place, it's going to be Applesoft Basic. If you remember from part 1, if you watched it, if not, integer basic required you to spell out the word print, required you to put all the spaces, but Applesoft doesn't require all that, so definitely advantages to that. One drawback though is the CFFA is designed to work with integer basic. It stores its basic programs in a specific address range, and Applesoft uses a different range, so you're not going to be able to save any basic programs onto the CFFA card from Applesoft. But there's a workaround for that if you're using the serial terminal. You can do that with the log command in Tera Term. So if you select to create a log, and then you'll select a place to save the log. So I'm going to navigate quickly to my D drive, which is my 4 terabyte Seagate, and we'll just call it thanks just as an example. So we save it. Now, once you got all that work done, you just have to list your program. Now the next output will be saved to the log. And so there it is. So now we can look to see what we saved on the computer. So we'll go dig for that. I'm going to select to open with Notepad. There it is. So open with Notepad. And somehow I managed to bury it, but there it is once I found it. So there it is in the log. It's a text file. And you can copy and paste that file into the terminal to reload the program later. So obviously a 3-line program is inconsequential. But let's say you had a larger program and you wanted to do it this way, you certainly could. This was just a simple example. So let's see if we can load it. So go new. So once it's on the clipboard and you just click that right mouse button, it brings up that dialog box and you click OK to paste it in. Now you see where after 5 we got a syntax error. I don't know if it had a invisible character or something on the line there, but at any rate we didn't get line 5, so we'll just go new again, and we'll go ahead and repeat the process, and we'll see if we get a clean load. There, it took it that time. So you have to press the enter or carriage return, whatever you want to call it, after the last line there. So we'll run it. Look at that. Okay. Let's reset. Let's reset button. So there you go. That drops us back in Wasmond. Alright, turn it off. We'll go ahead and connect the screen capture. I'll make an adjustment to the recording software to record the screen capture. Okay. Alrighty, turn it back on again. Take a second. Okay, there's the garbage on the screen. That's what we're looking for. So now we can try our clear button. Okay, that works. Reset. Ready to rock and roll in Wasman. Yeah. Move it over there. See that the light's on. How about that? So as I had stated, I need to add that ground cable. I think will straighten this out, but I'm going to go ahead and load the Apple 30th. So this is the output to the monitor. However, I'm still connected through serial, so I'm using Tera Term to enter commands to the computer there. Which is kind of cool because I don't much like the little keyboard I got to use with this computer. So I'd much rather use my nice mechanical keyboard that I have for my desktop. Okay, so now we're going to run the Apple 30th demo, and it's supposed to put pictures, and the first one works fine. It puts a picture of Woz through ASCII art, right? Then it kind of glitches out. So, at any rate, I'll get that ground cable hooked up, and maybe that'll straighten that out, hopefully. But at this point, I just want to put one crowning touch on this case before we call this video off here. And so I found a model of a Apple logo, right? So I 3D printed that, but the scale's just a little bit small, wouldn't you think? So I scaled it up about 3 times what I had originally printed. And that seems a little more appropriate. So this is not to try to claim it's a real Apple product in any measure, but to give a nod to the fact that it is inspired by Apple, okay? And so we'll just stick it on with a little bit of super glue. And here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little tiny bit on the old stem, and one in the middle. Great. Now, how am I going to pick it up and turn it over? Oh, the challenges never stop. Okay. Look at this. We got this. We got this. Alright, y'all. As I stick this on, I just want to thank you for watching the video. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more nonsense like this. And with that, as soon as we're done here, I'll bid you farewell. Y'all take care, okay?